Hello viewers, welcome to City Report. Today we are gonna explore state New Mexico. Let's get started. New Mexico is a state in the southwestern United States. Its capital is Santa Fe, which was founded in 1610 as capital of Nuevo Mexico, itself established as a province of New Spain in 1598. While its largest city is Albuquerque, with its accompanying metropolitan area, it is one of the mountain states of the southern Rocky Mountains and shares the Four Corners region of the western US with Utah, Colorado, and Arizona. New Mexico is also bordered by the state of Texas to the east southeast, Oklahoma to the northeast, and the Mexican states of Chihuahua to the south and Sonora to the southwest. With a population of 21,020,220 as of the 2020 US Census, New Mexico is the 36th largest state by population, with a total area of 121,590 square miles. It is the 5th largest and 6th least densely populated of the 50 states. Due to their geographic locations, northern and eastern New Mexico exhibit a colder alpine climate, while western and southern New Mexico exhibit a warmer, arid climate. The Rio Grande and its fertile valley runs from north to south, creating a riparian climate in the middle of the state, supplying central New Mexico with its bosky gallery forest and distinct Albuquerque basin climate. With a total area of 121,590 square miles, New Mexico is the 5th largest state. New Mexico's eastern border lies along 103° west longitude with the state of Oklahoma and, due to a 19th century surveying error, 2.2 miles west of 103° west longitude with Texas. On the southern border, Texas make up the eastern two-thirds, while the Mexican states of Chihuahua and Sonora make up the western third, with Chihuahua making up 90% of that. The western border with Arizona runs along the 109° west longitude. The southwestern corner of the state is known as the Boothill. The 37° north parallel forms the northern boundary with Colorado. The state of New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona, and Utah come together at the Four Corners in New Mexico's northwestern corner. Its surface water area is about 292 square miles. Francisco Vasquez de Coronado assembled an enormous expedition at Compostela in 1540 to 1542 to explore and find the mythical 7 golden cities of Cibola as described by Fray Marcos de Niza. The name New Mexico was first used by a seeker of gold mines named Francisco de Ibarra, who explored far to the north of New Spain in 1563 and reported his findings as being in New Mexico. Juan the Onate officially established the name when he was appointed the first governor of the new province of New Mexico in 1598. The same year, he founded the San Juan de los Caballeros capital at San Gabriel de Yungue, the first permanent European settlement in New Mexico on the Rio Grande near Oinge Pueblo. Onate extended El Camino Real de Tierra Adentro Royal Road of the interior by 700 miles from Santa Barbara, Chihuahua to his remote colony. New Mexico's climate is generally semi-arid to arid, though area of continental and alpine climate exists, and its territory is mostly covered by mountains, high plains, and desert. The Great Plains, High Plains are in eastern New Mexico, similar to the Colorado High Plains in eastern Colorado. Let's talk about top 10 places you must visit in New Mexico. Number 10. Pecos National Park. Pecos National Historical Park is a United States National Historical Park in San Miguel and Santa Fe counties, New Mexico. The park, operated by the National Park Service, encompasses thousands of acres of landscape infused with historical elements from prehistoric archaeological ruins to 19th century ranches to a battlefield of the American Civil War. Its largest single feature is Pecos Pueblo, also known as Sequi Pueblo, a Native American community abundant in historic times. First a state monument in 1935, it was made Pecos National Monument in 1965 and greatly enlarged and renamed in 1990. Two sites within the park, the Pueblo and the Glorieta Pass battlefield, are National Historic Landmarks. The main unit of the park preserves the ruins of Picus Pueblo, known historically as CQ, sometimes spelled Sequick, the village of 500 warriors. The first Picus Pueblo was one of 24 rock and mud villages built in the valley around AD 1100 in the prehistoric Pueblo II era. Within 350 years, the Pueblo IV era Picus village had grown to house more than 2,000 people in its 5-storied complex. The people who lived at Picus Pueblo spoke the Towa language. The Picus people enjoyed a rich culture with inventive architecture and beautiful crafts. They also possessed an elaborate religious life evidenced by the renames of over 20 ceremonial subterranean kivas. Some of the kivas have diameters as large as 40 feet and are 10 feet deep, accessed by wooden ladders. Farming was a main part of their diet and staple crops included the usual beans, corns, and squash. Their location, power and ability to supply goods made the Picus a major trade center in the eastern part of the Puebloan territory, connecting the Pueblos to the plains cultures such as the Comanche. There are 7 distinct periods of their occupancy, beginning with the pre-ceramic period, ancestral Paleo-Indians, and ending in the 1830s when the last remaining Pueblo people migrated to Jemez Pueblo, where the people also spoke the Towa language. Number 9. Taos Ski Valley. Taos Ski Valley is a village and alpine ski resort in the southwestern United States located in the Taos County, New Mexico. The population was 5,887 at the 2020 census. Until March 19, 2008, it was one of 4 ski resorts in America to prohibit snowboarding. The Kachina Lift, constructed in 2014, serves one of the highest elevations of any triple chair in North America, to a peak of 12,481 feet above sea level. The village was originally settled by a group of miners in the 1800s. But in 1955, Ernie and Rhoda Blake founded the area as a ski mountain. The village was incorporated in 1996. In 2013, Taos Ski Valley Incorporated was sold by the founding family to billionaire conservationist Louis Bacon. It has 110 trials with 24% beginners, 25% intermediate, and 51% advanced or expert. The Ernie Blake Snow Sports School is one of the highest rated ski schools in North America. According to the United States Census Bureau, the village has a total area of 2.4 square miles, all land. Taos Ski Valley is one of the highest municipalities in the US, sited at an elevation of 9,207 feet. However, the village limits reach 12,581 feet and the highest residential dwelling is at 10,350 feet. Kachina village, also at over 10,350 feet, houses Bavarian restaurant and 2 condo complexes and accommodates 6 permanent residents and visitors in 30 condo units. 70-80 home sites are planned for development. Villa Peak, the tallest mountain in New Mexico at 13,161 feet, overlooks the village. In the 1800s, present-day Taos Ski Valley was the site of a small copper mining town called Twining, New Mexico, though it was later abandoned. Present-day Taos Ski Valley was founded in 1955 by Ernie and Rhoda Blake. They lived in an 11-foot camper in the absence of any buildings in the area except almost completed Hondo Lodge, now Snake Dance, condominiums. Even after moving into the lodge, they lived without power until 1963. Ernie and Rhoda has been living in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Number 8. Gila Cliff National Monument. Gila Cliff Dwellings National Monument is a U.S. national monument created to protect Mongolian cliff dwellings in the Gila Wilderness on the headwaters of the Gila River in southwest New Mexico. The 533-acre national monument was established by President Theodore Roosevelt through executive proclamation on November 16, 1907. It is located in the extreme southern portion of Catron County. Visitors can access the monument by traveling northbound from Silver City, New Mexico, approximately 37 miles on NM 15. considered by archaeologists to be on the northmost portion of the Mongolian people's sphere of influence. The Gila Cliff Dwellings National Monument is home to two prominent ruins sites among a collection of smaller sites located within the Gila Wilderness inside the Gila National Forest. The monument landscape ranges in elevation from around 5,700 to 7,300 feet above sea level and follows the branches of the Gila River. The terrain around the ruins is rugged and arid and contains steep-sided canyons cut by shallow spring rivers and misses and bluffs forested with ponderosa pine, Gamble's oak, Douglas fir, New Mexico juniper, pinyon pine, and alligator juniper, among others. The area geologic history stems from the Oligocene epoch and volcanic activity that subsequently covered the area with ash. The monument's hot springs are remnants of this volcanic history. The monument consists of 553 acres and contains the remains of a Mimbres culture community in the region from between 1275 and into the early 14th century during the Pueblo III era. Archaeologists have identified 46 rooms in the 5 caves on Cliff Dweller Canyon and believe they were occupied by 10 to 15 families. The Hut Bar site or the TJ ruins, named for the former range which the mesa takes its name from located on TJ Mesa, are largely unexcavated. It is not known why the community was abandoned. Hopi oral tradition refers to migrations occurred based cycles, calendars, and in response to changing environmental conditions. Number 7. Cumbres Toltec Scenic Railway. The Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad, often abbreviated as the CNTSRR, is a 3-foot narrow gauge heritage railroad that operates on 64 miles of track between Antonito, Colorado, and Chama, New Mexico, in the United States. The railroad is named for two geographical features along the route, the other beginning the Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad (D&SNG), which runs between the communities of Durango and Silverton, Colorado. The railroad has a total of 10 narrow gauge steam locomotives, 6 of which are operational and 2 narrow gauge diesel locomotives in their current roster. The railroad also operates 2 smaller former D and RGW steam locomotives, numbers 315 and 168, for special events. On February 20, 1880, track crews of the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad began to lay the first rails of the San Juan extension, going south from Alamosa, Colorado, toward Antonito, Colorado, arriving in March of that year. The company chose the narrow gauge of 3 feet instead of the standard gauge of 4 feet, 8.5 inch. This was because the narrow gauge was cheaper to build. A narrow gauge railway can accommodate tighter radius curves. This allowed laying track where the standard gauge would not fit. From Antonito, the line continued west to Chama, New Mexico, arriving there on December 31, 1880. The track had come 64 miles through 2 tunnels, over a 10,000 feet mountain pass, and skirted a 600-foot gorge. Number 6. Taos Pueblo. Taos Pueblo, or Pueblo de Taos, is an ancient pueblo belonging to a Taos-speaking Native American tribe of Puebloan people. It lies about 1 mile north of the modern city of Taos, New Mexico. The pueblos are considered to be one of the oldest continuously inhabited communities in the United States. This has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Taos Pueblo is a member of the 8 Northern Pueblos. The Taos community is one of the most private, secretive, and conservative pueblos. Natives will almost never speak of their religious customs to outsiders, and because their language has never been written down, much of the culture remains unknown to the rest of the world. A tribal land of 95,000 acres is attached to the pueblo, and about 4,500 people live in this area. The pueblo was constructed in a setting backed by the Taos Mountains of the Sangre de Cristo Range. The settlement was built on either side of Rio Pueblo de Taos, also called as Rio Pueblo and Red Willow Creek, a small stream that flows through the middle of the pueblo compound. Its headwaters come from the nearby mountains. Taos Pueblo's most prominent architectural feature is a multi-storied residential complex of reddish-brown adobe built on either side of the Rio Pueblo. The Pueblo's website states it was probably built between 1000 and 1450. The Pueblo was designated a National Historic Landmark on October 9, 1960. In 1992, it was designated as a UNESCO Heritage Site. As of 2006, no Puebloans live in the historical town site full-time. Most archaeologists believe that the Taos indigenous people settled along the Rio Grande after migrating south from the Four Corners region. The dwellings of that region were inhabited by the ancestral Puebloans. Number 5. Petroglyph National Monument. Petroglyph National Monument stretches 17 miles along Albuquerque, New Mexico. New Mexico's West Mesa, a volcanic basalt escarpment that dominates the city's western horizon. Authorized June 27, 1990, the 7,236 acre is corporatively managed by the National Park Service and the city of Albuquerque. The western boundary of the monument features a chain of dormant fissure volcanoes. Beginning in the northwest corner, Butte volcano is followed to its south by Bond, Vulcan, Black and Ja volcanoes. Petroglyph National Monument protects a variety of cultural and natural resources including 5 volcanic cones, hundreds of archaeological sites and an estimated 24,000 images carved by ancestral Pueblo peoples and early Spanish settlers. Many of the images are recognizable as animals, people, brands, and crosses. Others are more complex. Their meaning was possibly understood only by the carver. These images are the cultural heritage of people who have long since moved into other areas and move on through history for many reasons. The monument is intended as a protection for these lands and sites from and for visitors to see and appreciate for generations to come. The National Monument is managed in a manner that allows recreational use. The monument has 4 major sites that visitors can access: Boca Negra Canyon, Rinconada Canyon, Piedras Mercedes Canyon, and the Volcano de Use Trails. Approximately 200,000 years ago, 6 volcanic eruptions created a 17-mile-long cliff containing thick basalt layers of rock and cold lava. When the volcanoes erupted, molten lava ranging in depth from 5 to 50 feet flowed downhill using old waterways called arroyos, which eventually formed triangular peninsula-shaped channels that flowed around hills. The hills have long since eroded away over time, while the stronger basalt rocks remained, which eventually cracked and formed canyons and escarpments. Number 4. Bandelier National Monument. Bandelier National Monument is a 33,677-acre United States national monument near Los Alamos in Sandoval and Los Alamos counties, New Mexico. The monument preserves the homes and territory of the ancestral Puebloans of a later era in the Southwest. Most of the Pueblo structures date to 2 eras, dating between 1150 and 1600 AD. The monument is 50 square miles of the Pajarito Plateau on the slopes of the Jemez volcanic field in the Jemez Mountains. Over 70% of the monument is wilderness, with over 1 million of elevation change from about 5,000 feet along the Rio Grande to over 10,000 feet at the peak of Cerro Grande on the rim of the Valles Caldera, providing for a wide range of life zones and wildlife habitats. 3 miles of road and more than 70 miles of hiking trails are built. The monument protects ancestral Pueblo archaeological sites, a diverse and scenic landscape, and the country's largest National Park Service Civilian Conservation Corps National Landmark District. Bandelier was designated by President Woodrow Wilson as a national monument on February 11, 1916, and named for Adolphe Bandelier, a Swiss-American anthropologist who researched the cultures of the area and supported preservation of the sites. The park infrastructure was developed in the 1930s by crews of the Civilian Conservation Corps and is a National Historic Landmark for its well-preserved architecture. The National Park Service cooperates with surrounding pueblos, other federal agencies and state agencies to manage the park. Human presence in the area has been dated to over 10,000 years before present. Permanent settlements by ancestor of the Puebloan peoples have been dated to 1150 CE. These settlers had moved closer to the Rio Grande by 1550. The distribution of basalt and obsidian artifacts from the area, along with other traded goods, rock markings, and construction techniques, indicate that its inhabitants were part of a regional trade network that included what is now Mexico. Spanish colonial settlers arrived in the 18th century. Number 3. Albuquerque International Balloon Festa. The Albuquerque International Balloon Festa is a yearly hot air balloon festival that takes place in Albuquerque, New Mexico, during early October. The Balloon Festa is a 9-day event occurring in the first full week of October and has over 500 hot air balloons each year. Far from its humble beginnings of merely 18 balloons in 1972, the event is the largest balloon festival in the world, followed by the Grand East Mondial Air in France. The Balloon Festa began in 1972 as the highlight of a 50th birthday celebration for 770 KOB radio. Radio station manager Dick Mackey asked Sid Cutter, owner of Cutter Flying Service and the first person to own a hot air balloon in New Mexico, if KOB could use his new hot air balloon as a part of the festivities. The two began discussing ballooning along with conversation and help from Oscar Crates, and McKee asked what the largest gathering of hot air balloons to date had been. 19 balloons in England, Cutter replied. Crates asked, "Can we get 19 here?" Cutter agreed to try. He got commitments from 21 pilots, but bad weather kept some of them from arriving in time. The first Fiesta ended up as a gathering of 13 balloons. On April 8, 1972, sponsored by KOB, the first event was located in the parking lot of the Coronado Center shopping mall with 20,000 spectators and with balloonists from Arizona, California, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, and Texas taking part. McKee, Cutter, and Crates are the three men who had originally started the balloon races. The first Fiesta incorporated a Roadrunner coyote balloon race, a hare and hounds race elsewhere in the world, with one balloon being the Roadrunner and the others being coyote balloons. The Roadrunner balloon was actually emblazoned with likenesses of both Warner Bros. Characters. The winner of the race, the coyote that landed closest to the Roadrunner, was Don Pritchard of the noted Aerostation dynasty, flying a balloon of his company's design and construction. His wife also placed in the race. Number 2. White Sands National Monument. White Sands National Park is an American national park located in the state of New Mexico and completely surrounded by the White Sands Missile Range. The park covered 145,762 acres, that is 227.8 square miles, in the Tularosa Basin, including the southern 41% of a 275 square mile field of white sand dunes composed of gypsum crystals. This gypsum dune field is the largest of its kind on Earth, with a depth of about 30 feet, dunes as tall as 60 feet, and about 4.5 billion short tons, 4.1 billion metric tons of gypsum sand. Approximately 12,000 years ago, the land within the Tularosa Basin featured large lakes, streams, grasslands, and ice age mammals. As the climate warmed, rain and snow melt dissolved gypsum from the surrounding mountains and carried it into the basin. Further warming and drying caused the lakes to evaporate and form selenite crystals. Strong winds then broke up crystals and transported them eastward. A similar process continues to produce gypsum sand today. Thousands of species of animal inhabit the park, a large portion of which are invertebrates. Several animal species feature a white or off-white coloration. At least 45 species are endemic, living only in this park, with 40 of them being moth species. The Tularosa Basin has also seen a number of human inhabitants, from Paleo-Indians 12,000 years ago to modern farmers, ranchers, and miners. White Sands National Park was originally designated White Sands National Monument on January 18, 1933 by President Herbert Hoover. It was redesignated as a national park by Congress and signed into law by President Donald Trump on December 20, 2019. It is the most visited NPS site in New Mexico, with about 600,000 visitors each year. The park features a drive from the visitor center to the heart of the dunes, picnic areas, backcountry campground in the dune field, marked hiking trails, and sledding on the dunes. Ranger-guided orientation and nature walk occurs at various times and months throughout the year. Number 1. Carlsbad Caverns National Park. Carlsbad Caverns National Park is an American national park in the Guadalupe Mountains of southeastern New Mexico. The primary attraction of the park is the Show Cave. Carlsbad Cavern. Visitors to the cave can hike in on their own via the natural entrance or take an elevator from the visitor center. The park entrance is located on US Highway 62-180. Approximately 18 miles southwest of Carlsbad, New Mexico. Carlsbad Caverns National Park participates in the Junior Ranger program. The park has 2 entries on the National Register of Historic Places: the Caverns Historic District and the Rattlesnake Springs Historic District. Approximately 2/3 of the park has been set aside as a wilderness area, helping to ensure no future changes will be made to the habitat. Carlsbad Cavern includes a large limestone chamber named simply the Big Room, which is almost 4,000 feet long, 625 feet wide, and 255 feet high at its highest point. The Big Room is the largest chamber in North America and the 31st largest in the world. An estimated 250 million years ago, the area surrounding Carlsbad Caverns National Park served as the coastline for an inland sea. Present in the sea was a plethora of marine life whose remains formed a reef. Unlike modern reef growths, the Permian Reef contained bryozoans, sponges, and other microorganisms. After the Permian period, most of the water evaporated and the reef was buried by evaporities and other sediments. Tectonic movement occurred during the late Cenozoic, uplifting the reef above ground. Susceptible to erosion, water sculpted the Guadalupe Mountain region into its present-day state. Once the acidic groundwater drained from the caverns, speleothems began to be deposited within the cavern. This was all about state New Mexico. Hope you liked the video. Subscribe for more videos like this. Do share with your friends and family. Thanks for watching.